Hello and welcome to the stream. That was an absolutely ridiculous race. I think that race will take me a solid week to calm down from, but also there's so much that happened, so much drama, controversy, bad and good decisions that it will take me a while to actually digest what we just saw. Welcome to the stream. We are back for some more F1 content, this time reacting to the 2021 Russian Grand Prix, a classic. I mean, we all made the memes about Russia being a bad race, but this is a genuine classic, a fantastic race. So much action, so much to talk about, so we're going to get right into it, because if you told anyone, say last week, what we would have seen this week, they wouldn't have believed you. But perhaps the biggest storyline from today has to be Lando Norris. But you know what, actually, before I get into that, in chat, guys, let me know who was your driver of the day, what your thoughts are, because there are just so many different stories, so many different narratives. And Olanes, I can't say that name, but I think encapsulates very accurately what many people are feeling. Lando Norris had managed that race with such composure, no issues all race. And then at the end, he makes the call himself, because let's be clear here, guys. McLaren told him, come into the pits, now is the time to pit. Now is the time to make sure that we just keep it, play it safe and take the win. Thank you for the sub, Axel, thank you so much. But Lando said no, and he made it clear, I'm staying out. And ultimately, that cost him an F1 race win. His first ever F1 race victory. Incredible. And a point there from Callum Patience, and I agree, as an Alonso fan, I am depressed, so any super chats would be welcome. Because Alonso's race was incredible. The man stayed out all race, pretty much the same as Perez until I think lap 38. He was running in a P6, and if Perez had come in earlier, podium. If Alonso had come in earlier, podium. So Alonso, another great performance. That podium was elusive, but a great drive from him. And Perez, again, very good in the race. And if he'd come in earlier, he could have easily taken a podium as well. Yes, I am in charge. By the way, guys, if you need, please subscribe and like the video and hit the bell, because I'll be going live pretty much every day. But that race was genuinely insane, And I also think that for Max, who we'll get onto, thankfully, we'll get onto everybody in a minute. Verstappen, this is the kind of race where he wasn't, I don't think, at least, he was expecting to do what he did. Because when you're starting last, you're always expecting, okay, it's going to be a long order. But for him to finish P2 and to limit the kind of progress made by Hamilton in the standings and just make sure that he's right there, that was incredible. And in a way, was he a bit lucky with the timing of the rain? Yes, we have to give him credit and the team for making the stop when they did, for being on the ball, because many teams were left sleeping, and many teams lost big points by not coming out. Sorry, by not coming in. So credit to them. Thank you for the sub, Nacho. Thank you so much, pal. If you need, please do subscribe. But yeah, that was genuinely incredible. An incredible race. And this year is shaping up to be a genuine F1 classic. I know that we kind of, in the heat of the moment, it's easy to kind of overhype something. But what we saw today genuinely was incredible. And this year's been amazing. Ronnie, it was a mistake. I think the issue was Lando on track saw it was dry. And really, until I think lap 50 or 49, dry tyres were the best to be on. But unfortunately, Lando stayed out just too long. Too long. Obviously, he didn't know the rain that was coming, because the rain came and it came extremely strong. So whilst he was unlucky, ultimately it was his mistake, because he didn't only say I'm staying out, he defied his team. Now I think at that point we're going to have to be more clear and say, Lando, it's going to rain heavily, come in. But that's, it's a very tough situation. But that was honestly a fantastic race. And given that on Friday people were saying, maybe we won't have any race and it'll be like a Spa repeat, to have that was incredible. Carlos Sainz as well, to my right. He's a driver whose performance again will go under the radar. Whose performance again will kind of be missed, but it was a fantastic drive. Chills races, yes it was. Kieran, I mean honestly, to be fair, he got up the grid very well. I agree that he was probably going to finish P7, P6 before the rain, but you have to give him credit, give him and the team credit for coming in when he did. But speaking of Carlos Sainz, he's a driver who in general, he tends to go under the radar. And even though, of course, in the dry, Lando had the better pace, again, a P3 finish, converting that qualifying into a good race result. And whilst Leclerc was unlucky, Sainz was there to pick up the points for Ferrari and to kind of lead that team. Because today could have been a really tough day for Ferrari in the constructors. And I think with Sainz in Sainz in P3, Ricardo 5th, and Lando 7th. They only lost, I think, 1 point to McLaren. So a very good day for Sainz. If they'd pit Leclerc earlier, he could have even taken a top 5 finish. So a very big shame there. But it was, again, a fantastic racing, guys, in chat. Let me know what you're thinking. Of course, if you're new, subscribe and like the video. But yeah, I just want to, hear all of your thoughts. And in chat, guys, let me know. Would you like to see a tier list for this race? Because I might do that either now or later on, depending on if you guys want to. Matisse, Perez, a very strong race. Early on, of course, he was kind of in that train with Lewis. But once in clean air, him, Alonso, and Leclerc on those hards extended for so long. And critically, their pace was good whilst they were out there. So it was a really, really good stint, I would say, there. From Perez, Alonso, and Leclerc on the hards to just extend. And of course, Perez's qualifying must be improved. And in that car, he should be qualifying better. But he was able to today get a good result. Or at least perform well. I think, in the end, where did Perez finish? Was it 4th? I don't even know where Perez... Was it 4th? Because Valtteri got, with all due respect, the most undeserved P5 in history. Perez finished P9. Oh, okay. Unlucky then for Perez, because I think that he actually performed well. At Chills, I agree. He was very, very unlucky. Perez deserved at least a top 5 from that race. But what I was saying is Valtteri early on the enters, and with all due respect, the least deserved P5 that you could get. Alonso, Lando, Checo all performed better. And I'm not here to hate on Valtteri. I still think that he'll outscore Perez this year. But in this race, no overtaking, no real pace. Is that all his fault? No, because Mercedes, at least on the dry, had a very peculiar strategy. But it was a very good points haul for Bottas, despite really doing nothing all race. But yeah. Yep, so he was 9th. So 2 points. Again, Valtteri outscoring Checo by 8 points. Lewis outscoring Max, that was expected. Mercedes have now got a pretty comfortable buffer in the constructors. And in this very, very close battle, I don't know. I just think it's going to be pretty tough for Red Bull to beat Mercedes. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, and Ronnie, to be fair, I think it's not the same, but I see your point. It was very much a case of Verstappen did well to overtake, but the race did kind of let come into his hands. But I think, guys, I'll do a quick tier list just because it gives me a bit more structure. I think it's sometimes easy to just go on tangents, but I want to go through every driver, and I'll actually get my phone in so I can see all of your comments. And guys, in chat, let me know where you'd put each driver in what tier. I'll just quickly edit the tier list right now whilst I'm going through it. But again, a crazy race. The Aston Martin pairing, guys, in chat, let me know your thoughts on that, because it was a very bizarre thing that we saw. Again, Stroll and Vettel making contact. And I say again because I mean again. I don't know. It's peculiar because they've had quite a few at this stage this year. And it was, I think, again, Lance who just, I think, had no control over the car and just lost it, basically. Of course, I don't think it was malicious, but again, more points dropped for Aston in their fight against Alpine. And Alpine with Alonso, again, edging closer to that P5. And I predicted that AlphaTauri would beat Alpine this year. But as it stands with Alonso doing what he's doing, and even though Ocon wasn't there today, he's been pretty good so far this year, or he's been good enough. And with Yuki struggling as he is, I think that we could see in the end a very surprise, or I should say, we could see Alpine outscoring AlphaTauri. Axel, I mean, possibly. I think that this was a massive win for Hamilton. Of course, his 100th win, an incredibly, astronomically good achievement. But also, it's been a long time since he won. Incredibly. Generally speaking, well, not in general, but this is one of his longest, I would say, points droughts ever in F1. To go 10 races without a win for Hamilton is like unheard of. And even though in qualifying he made the mistake and he couldn't overtake early on, his pace on the slicks was good. And again, it was partly strategy, but also give credit to Hamilton for making those inters work, coming in and trusting his team and getting the points. Hayden, will Norris get a penalty? Potentially. That's a good point, actually. At the end of the race, of course, Lando kind of struggling, kind of desperate, or I should say very desperate. He was he on entry to the pits went wide, and kind of went inside the pits and then outside the white line. And I think that's a slam dunk penalty. Akapa, as you say, I think that in that regard, Hayden, a penalty is kind of inevitable. It's kind of inevitable because it's a slam dunk. Maybe they'll try and justify it by saying it was wet, but generally speaking, that's a slam dunk penalty. But maybe because it wasn't in the wet, we won't see that. And Matisse, very good point. Kimi Räikkönen. And you know what I'll say about Kimi? Even before the rain, he was 12th, 11th. He was knocking on the door for points. So to, make the right tyre switch to drive as well as he did, very good job. P8. It's a shame that Williams have scored so many points this year for Alfa Romeo because they're kind of out of it in some regards. But still, a very, very good job from them. Some really good points with P8 and with a possible Norris penalty that could be P7. So of course Kimi outqualified Giovinazzi and was of course out of F1 for in the last 2 Grand Prix because of his COVID. So yeah, Brock, it was bonkers. By the way, guys, please, if you're new, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so that when I go live, you're all notified. The super chats are appreciated, of course, if you want. I could use something to get me over Alonso's near podium. But yes, time for the tier list. I think that we'll go in order of teams in the constructors because it makes things a bit more organized for me, so that I can do things in a bit more of a tidy manner. That's about right, I would say. Okay, that's good. All right. So Lewis Hamilton. Yuri, is this Germany? Yuri, to be fair, I see what you're saying, but that was an incident from 2 years ago. So I don't know. Normally it would be penalty. Maybe in the wet they can justify it, but again, that's from 2 years ago. I don't even know the exact thing that happened or the exact kind of circumstances there. So I'm not going to comment on that from like 2 years ago, but possibly. Lewis, I think that he gets an A. People will say A star because he won, but to me, in that car, he should have had a better start, number one. Of course, he was a bit unlucky, but in that machinery, it was a bit too close. Of course, he had a very good race, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I just feel as though, was it him saying to come in, or was it the team? I think it was more the team telling him that it was the right call to come into the pits. And to have been behind Lando until the very end there, in that car, to me, is kind of meh. But guys, in chat, as I'm doing this, let me know what you think. A for Hamilton, what are your thoughts? So guys, for each driver, just tell me what grade you would give them. And the grade is based on performance, but also result, because in F1 it's about results. So it's a combination of where they finish and also their performance. So it's an A for Lewis. I might bump it up to an A star. But to me, in those kinds of conditions, or I would say in that car, I think that before the wets, it wasn't as special as I would have hoped. And especially when he was behind Ricciardo, and Ricciardo didn't have any DRS from anybody, I was expecting slightly more there. Alright, next Bottas, guys, in chat, let me know where you'd rank him. Hold on. Has my screen froze? Let me just check. Has my screen froze? It hasn't. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's very good. Okay, sorry guys. But guys in chat, let me know, Valtteri Bottas, where you'd put him. To me, a pretty anonymous race from him, I'll be honest. A pretty anonymous race. I'm going to put him in C. Now, of course, he was on the back foot from yesterday, or from this morning, when he was given that penalty by Mercedes for the new engine. But with that said, Leclerc, for example, in worse machinery, got a better start and had more pace, and was doing better and should have got more points. So even though at the end, Valtteri got a decent points finish, he had an okay finish. P5, given that he began P17, that's okay. But with all due respect to him, that was all the team saying box early for Inters. He had poor pace, very few overtakes. So for me, it's a C for Valtteri. Yeah, I mean, not completely terrible. I mean, it was pretty poor, to be honest, before the wets. Jorge says C, I agree. Axel C, Pavel D, Matisse C, Smek C, C or D. Chills Races D. I mean, yeah, I agree. But as I said, guys, a combination of performance and result. In terms of his pure performance, it's probably a D. But he gets the C because of the P5, which is a good result given where he started. And as Kappa says, a fair point is that overtaking was always going to be difficult, but I still think his pace was pretty poor. Next, Checo Perez. I think I might give him an A, you know. Guys in chat, let me know, A or B, because I think he had a pretty good race. Starting pretty far back, a good start, decent pace throughout. he was kind of in that train at the start with kind of Ricciardo, and then at the start with Russell and Stroll. Ironic how Stroll and Russell were P3 and P4 all race, and then at the end, also at the start, and then at the end, only Russell got P10 and Stroll got 0 points. So for me, it's between a B. I think I'll give him a B. Considering the result, I mean, was it his fault? No, but I think P9 in a Red Bull is not enough to warrant an A. He had decent pace, but again, in that car, similar kind of thing. He should have qualified higher. He did very well to stay out so long, though, on those hard tyres, to be fair, like Alonso and Leclerc. So I think very close to an A. Say if he gets the podium, an A. But with the P9 finish and when you kind of do result and form or result and pace, I think that would be as fair. Yuri, Bartosz, BAFTA, Formula Gaming, Ardit, Matisse, Captain Nuclear, Brody, all of you saying B. I agree, guys. And thank you so much, by the way, for interacting. I appreciate all of you massively. But yeah, I think that B is fair for Checo Perez. Max gets an A. I think that in terms of raw performance, it wasn't his best ever race. He did well at the start. Actually, to be fair, he had a very good start, passing everyone and passing Bottas within like 6 laps. So he had a very, very strong start. But I think that after that, he was running in P7 or P6 after Alonso passed him. I'm not sure if it's good enough for an A star personally, just because I feel as though it wasn't lucky, but it was kind of circumstantial, and of course that's part of the sport, but I'm not sure that it's enough to give an A star. In chat, you guys can let me know if it's an A or an A star for you. I think it's an A or A star. It's very close, but yeah, I think that purely because he was somewhat helped by the weather, I think it's an A. Matisse B, Formula Gaming, Axel, Jorge, all of you agreeing with A, and Axel agree, not quite A star, close, but I think his pace prior to the wets wasn't quite A star. Brady says that and I think Captain Nuclear, that is the key point there. It's not, of course, his fault that he started so far back, but again, before the kind of last minute rain, he would have had a pretty meh performance. Next is Lando. Guys in chat, of course, as always, tell me where you'd put him. This is an interesting one, because before the kind of last minute rain, it's an easy A star, easily. Very composed, passed Sainz back again, and took those mediums out, and was on those mediums for a ridiculously long time. Kept it really consistent, was gapping Ricciardo, and was on track to either take a win or P2. But realistically, in the dry, I think that Lando hangs on to the victory. But in the wet, though, that was his mistake. And I think that whilst it's tempting to give an A star, I've got to be ultra critical here. I've got to be ultra harsh and I have to be objective. To me, it's an A, purely because he made the call to stay out. Now, of course, it's a bit unlucky. It's very unlucky because he couldn't have known that the rain was going to be so heavy. And frankly, I'm not sure that any team knew that it would rain so heavily. But with that said, it was his call that did cost him the win. So, I'm not sure. I think I'll put him in A. It would have been A star. But to me, A is about right. Matisse says A+, Yuri A or A, Formula A or A+, Chills A, Kappa A, and I agree. I think, look, it's very unfortunate. It's an almost impossible scenario for anybody to manage, but at the same time, it was his mistake to stay out. So I'll give him an A. Ricciardo, and yet Yuri, I agree completely, mate. I think that you're spot on there. By the way, guys, thank you so much for being in chat. It really means a lot to me. Ricciardo tried to trace back his race, was stuck in the train, and then became the kind of head of the train as the race went on. I think it's probably a B or a C. Guys in chat, let me know. And that's true, Brody. That's very good, actually. They did botch his pit stop. I'd forgotten about that, and that compromised him on the undercut, because he was on track to undercut Lewis, wasn't he? But they didn't pit him. I think that still, whilst he did well, just compared to Lando was quicker. Lando had more pace, and of course he qualified ahead. But even when Ricciardo had free air and Lando had free air when they were in 1 and 2, Lando was faster. And yes, Ricciardo was defending, but I still think that overall Ricciardo was a bit slower. Not massively. He was doing a good job, and I think, where did he finish? P5 or P4? P4 for Ricciardo. So I think that's fair. Abra, Bartosz, Ardit, I think that we all agree B or A, Kappa B, Matisse B, Formula Gaming as well. Axel, I mean, look, I agree, but I just think that maybe because McLaren have been at the top for so long, we don't think of it too much, but bearing in mind that Lando was quicker. So I think he had a good performance, but his teammate was a bit quicker. And of course, when in this kind of in F1, that matters a lot. So I think that a fair grade is a B, close to an A. If he'd maybe got a podium, then I'd give him an A, but not quite there yet. Sorry guys, I'm just adjusting something. But yeah, I think that a B is fair. A B is fair. But guys, by the way, if you're new, please subscribe to the channel, because I'll be doing live streams probably every day from now on at the same time. So do stick around for that. Carlos Sainz in chat, guys. Let me know, where are we putting Carlos? Where are you putting him? The young Spaniard whose race at one point was looking really, really iffy. I mean, of course, he had the amazing start passing Lando. But I think at the halfway point, it was looking as though P5 was going to be his limit. And Ferrari even told him, you know, Carlos, your limit here, or your best case scenario is P5. And he said only P5. You could hear his frustration coming in very early. But I think that was partly because his tyres were gone himself. That Ferrari just couldn't manage those tyres for very long. But still, he was going to get some good points prior to the rain, and with the rain, P3, so decent performance, very good result for Ferrari P3. I think it's an A, a solid A. Yeah, I agree. BAT A, Rudvik A, Abra, yep, A, I agree. Matisse, agree. So I think it's an A. You could argue B, but I think it was good enough. Quite a few A's here. Maybe I have to be a bit more harsh. Charlie Leclerc. Charlie Leclerc. This is the hard one, guys, and maybe you guys can help me out here. His performance really warranted an A or even an A star. He started at the back, the very, very back. Well, not at the very back, but in P19. He climbed up the grid. And not only did he pass many cars, not only was he ahead of Valtteri and Verstappen for a lot of the first stint, not only did he conserve his hards for a long time, but he was on course for very good points. And if he'd come in early for Inters, I think Leclerc, Alonso, those two guys, if they come in slightly earlier for Inters, they both score a podium. Very unlucky for Charlie Leclerc. But of course you have to consider result and you have to consider performance. Performance is easily A, maybe even A star. But the result wasn't there. And of course, I stress again, was it his fault? No. But I can't really put Leclerc A tier when he got no points, whilst Sainz, his teammate, got P3. So I'm going to put him in B. Ardit says B. Kappa B. BAFTA C. I think that B is fair. I think, look, he was very unlucky, and I think that his final finishing result wasn't completely his fault. But at the same time, if you finish that far down, I can't give you the same rating as your teammate. So I think that B is fair. Pierre Gasly, C. I haven't thought of it too much, but I think it was a pretty bang average race for Pierre. They didn't have the pace of the other guys, and I think he was, again, most drivers, I think from Ocon behind in the first stint, because you had Alonso out on hards, gapping Ocon slowly and managing his pace, and then behind you had Ocon and Kimi and Seb and Giovinazzi. If you were in that group or behind that group, you're going to struggle, or you're going to struggle. So I think that Gasly in that regard was compromised, but no real great pace. To be fair, he stayed out for a very, very long time on the hards and held up lots of people for a while. But to me, it wasn't a really good race for Gasly, especially because this year I've got such high standards for him. Okay drive, but didn't get any points. So I think that C is fair. And Yuki, it's a D. At the start, I'm not sure what happened. I think that he hit the barge board. Just disappointing for Yuki. He had a pretty good qualifying, just I think a 10th behind Pierre. Of course, Pierre had his issues, but still a good qualifying for Yuki and way off Pierre. Ready at the ready. Thank you for commenting. Didn't actually spin. Oh, he did. I think that he may have been hit off by Stroll, but even then he was really low off. Yeah, Brody, there you go. Yep, he was spun off by Stroll, so that wasn't his fault. So I think a C is fair, and a D for Yuki also is pretty reasonable. Now guys in chat, let me know, Fernando Alonso Diaz, where would you put him? I'm curious. Where would you guys put Alonso? Because it's a very tough... Is it really a tough one? I don't think so. It's a shame because, again, I think that... By the way, the F1 TV director showed him for 0 laps. I mean, you could hardly see him in the race at all, despite the fact that he was running in P3, P4, P2 for a while. Ultra consistent, but also fast, because even on his 20-30 lap old hards, he was lapping faster than Ocon, who was on fresh tyres. Great pace, kept up with Perez and was faster than Leclerc for most of his stint. no mistakes, a good result in P6, and before the really, really heavy rain, in torrential wet conditions, the man passed Perez and was fighting for P3. If the rain hadn't got that much more intense and the rain had just stayed the same, he maybe gets a podium. But regardless of that, very consistent, very good points. To me, it has to be an A bare minimum. If he gets the podium, it would have been an A star, but he didn't. So I think an A is fair. I mean, I'm being a bit harsh there, but even then, P6 in an Alpine is very, very good. I might have to kind of be a bit more accurate, with my A's or A stars. Bartosz says A+, Yuri A, Ardit A star. Abra says B. Interesting there. Kappa says A. And Ready, yeah, they hardly showed signs or Alonso. Very weird. Very weird, especially like they have the small kind of camera on the timing screens that they can show, and they don't use it enough because they miss so much. Even I think when Perez etc. came out for their first stop in the dry, they didn't show Perez coming out ahead of Verstappen, etc. etc. So a shame that F1 TV directors don't really know what they're doing half the time. But I think regardless, Alonso an A. Yeah, Brody, I agree. They didn't show any reserve takes, which there were many, but a good race, good pace, very good points, and again, in the fight for P5, those 6 points, it's not a win or a podium, but those will help Alpine nicely to kind of gap Aston Martin even more. I think that they're well beyond Aston Martin's reach, and creating a bit more of a gap to AlphaTauri. Ocon, I'm going to give him a C. You could argue B, but I think he got... Did he even score points, Ocon? Nope, he didn't get any points. He finished P14. I think that he also was... He didn't come in early for Inters, so in that regard, he had poor strategy, but even before that, he was fighting for P11, P12, didn't really do much before then. His pace wasn't great, wasn't really pushing. I would say C, because the performance was B, borderline C, and the result was C. At the start of the race, it was Alonso then Ocon, and Alonso does what he always does. He starts out slow-ish, but then he gapped Ocon, and then when Ocon came in, his pace compared to Alonso's wasn't really faster. So again, a bit unlucky there with the rain, but even before the rain, wasn't very quick. So I think that a C is fair. Mazepin, I don't really see him. I'll just pop him in and actually no, I'll do him last because he's in a washed-up team. Brody says C. Ready at the ready C. Bartosz, I mean, I think yeah, he was the definition of C, but Brody, I agree, nothing terrible. Kappa, yeah, definitely C. So yeah, I think that C is fair. Matisse also, yeah, I think that's a fair grade. Now guys, before we do Vettel, Lance Stroll in chat, I want to hear it. Where would you put Lance? And would you guys put Lance Stroll? Because I'm not sure. He had a decent qualifying, P8. In the rain, he's almost always strong. But I was thinking to myself, in the race today, I'm just trying to think of it more in depth. What more could he have done? And I'm trying to go back through his race because I can't exactly recall everything that happened. Oh, and Owen, thank you very much for the sub, mate. Thank you so much. And guys, if you're new, please do subscribe. So hold on, guys. I'll get the tier list back. But yeah, it was kind of, it's kind of hard because I didn't really catch his race. He had an amazing start, P4, and arguably, if you put somebody else in that position, they overtake. Of course, it's hard to overtake, but I was thinking, damn it, if Stroll can just pass Russell and Russell holds up everybody else, a podium could have been possible. And with Stroll, I'm seeing a big variety. Rutvik says C, Ready at the ready, D, Gotham also D, Jalui D, but then Matisse, Abra saying C, and Bartosz saying B. I think when you consider that he got no points, I can't really give him an A or a B. He had a good first stint, but I think his race was compromised from his early stop. It helped him try to get the undercut in some regards, but by the end of the race, he was really struggling. With that said though, he was running around, I think, was it in P8 before the rain? So he was unlucky there. So I think that his pure drive was maybe a B or a C, but again, out of the points, a C. And also, he hit into Seb. And Bottas, that's a great... I mean, look, of course, he had no grip, and that explains his collision, but it's still his fault for colliding, you know? It's still his fault if he wasn't able to keep it on track. And Brody, and yeah, also, to be fair, he did hit off Gasly. He almost took out Seb. I don't know. I mean, when you consider that he took two people, I have to put him in D. And the thing is, it could have been an A or a B, but when the rain came, The first mistake, touching Seb, but that's not a big deal. The real mistake is taking out Gasly pretty much. That's just, yeah, that... And I feel like that's harsh. I think that maybe a C is more fair. To be fair, I'm going to give him a C because prior to the rain, I think he was doing well. But it must be said that no points and those kind of incidents weren't great. It's a C, but a generous C. I might change it at the end, but for now, put him in C. Seb, C as well. Was behind Lance, but I think was pushing for points at the end. I think him, Giovinazzi, sorry, not Gio. Him, Kimi, Russell were all kind of jostling for those last points at the end. He didn't get points. Where did he finish again? Was it 12th? Yeah, finished 12th. So not a bad race from him, but kind of average, I would say again. I'll say average again. And Aston Martin, I think that P7 is where they're finishing because Alpine have just gone way beyond, and Alonso is just really performing on all cylinders at the moment. So I can't really see anything there. Vettel says C. Conchisa was already ahead before the rain. Was he ahead of Lance before the rain? Was he? I don't remember exactly. I don't recall exactly. Tim, C. I think I'd agree. I'd say C. Yeah, Brody, I think he was a bit unlucky. But I couldn't really put him at a B because I didn't see him do much else. Again, that's the kind of race where I'll watch the replay and I'll say, interesting. But for now, I'm just going to keep it at that. Giovinazzi, I'm going to put him in D. I'll check where he finished quickly. Where did he finish? Yeah, P16. I mean, he may have been unlucky, but poor qualifying. Kimi was ahead all race. And chat guys do comment where you put Giovinazzi, but to me it's a D. He was behind Kimi at the start. Kimi got a better start and was ahead all race pretty much. Kimi got points. Giovinazzi was behind. Now I'm being told here that Giovinazzi had no radio, but even then he was slower than his teammate. He got no points. He qualified worse. I can't really give him a C because a C is like, okay, you've done fine. But finishing that far down compared to your teammate is not really good enough, unfortunately. And Giovinazzi, it's again, whilst he was unlucky in Zandvoort and he was unlucky in Italy, when it counts or when it comes to getting those points on the board, it's Kimi who tends to be the one that comes to shop for Alfa Romeo. So I want to give Giovinazzi a D, unfortunately. Kimi, I think that would all agree it's a solid A for him, surely. Some saying B or C. And look, I don't want to overhype his race too much, but he had very good pace even in the dry. He wasn't quite in the points, but in the Alpha, I don't think that... In the Alfa Romeo with no retirements from the front, I don't think that points are very realistic. He was around the kind of top 10 battle the whole time. And to get P8, possibly P7 for Alfa Romeo is a big result. We're going to see now soon if there's a result for... Norris if he gets a penalty. But Kimi, ultra consistent, quick, and got the result. That's the key. Conscious says A, Brody A. I agree. I think first race back, out qualifying his teammate, finishing way ahead of his teammate, but bringing home big points in Alfa Romeo, 8th place. It's not a win, of course, but 4 points for Alfa, maybe even 6. That's a mega job to me. You know, maybe the thing is, some of you guys are saying B, Ardit says C, Matisse B or C, but to me, he had a very good race. And it's a shame because you hardly see these guys on TV sometimes, but it is how it is. Russell, actually, I'll give Latifi the TDNF. I can't recall when Latifi DNF'd. I'll give Mick an A because he retired, and I'll give Mick a D. Sorry, Nikita a D. Latifi, I can't quite remember what happened to him. Why did he DNF, guys? Can someone help me out? Was it just a technical issue? Let me double check there. Why did he didn't spin off or anything, but I think that before that he wasn't doing very well. I can't give him a C though because he wasn't anywhere near his teammate. So I'm gonna give him a D, and I'm gonna give George. Actually, guys, I'll wait for you. Where would you guys put George? A, B, C. It's tough because even though a point is very good, I think that Williams, truth be told, are a decent team. If you get a decent car, are they a top 7 car? Probably not. But in that first stint, he was, from what I remember, lapping similarly to Sainz. Initially, Sainz was gapping him in the first 5 laps, but then after that, there was a time where the gap went from 7 seconds to 6.5 to 6.2. So George had pretty decent pace. He got a point. Now, I think that nowadays, a point isn't as big of a deal for Williams because they've got so many already. I think that was a solid drive from him. Kappa says C, Jalui A+, Gotham B, Sebastian Danny, great team chat mate, solid C, Conscious C. It's a bit of a mix. Yeah, for Nicholas, it was a technical thing. I'm going to put him at a B. Not amazing, but still a very good drive. And I think that maybe because we're seeing so many good points scores from him, we kind of underrate him in some aspects. But yeah, no, that was... First of all, guys, thank you so much for taking part. And thank you for the subscription, Mark Luke. I appreciate you massively. Guys, if you're new, please do subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And I'll be doing streams every day, so hit that bell button. And Kappa, yeah, I think that, in a way, as he performs better, people will rate his points finishes less and less, which I think is what's kind of happening here, because even though he got points, people are saying, that's normal. In a way, that's a good thing because he's normalizing good points. But I still think that a solid point score for Williams is nothing to be laughed at, so good job from him. Alonso so close to the podium. I'm just here on Twitter there. But yeah, hold on. So guys in chat, I'm gonna be here for a while. I'm not gonna go just yet. So just give me your comments, give me your thoughts from today. It was a crazy race, a really fun race. But I think depending on who you supported, it would have been either heartbreak or ecstasy. I think if you're a Russell fan, or sorry, a Lando fan, then it's probably a very depressing day. As a Alonso fan, I'm happy with the points, but still depressed because that podium that he deserves was so close. But honestly, guys, with the year that we're having, I expect to see 1 or 2 more crazy Grand Prix, honestly. I fully expect to see another race like Sochi or Hungary or Baku. Take your pick of crazy races where we'll see things kind of, materialize. But, yeah. What a race. But I'm not sure. They had an issue that was apparently getting worse as the session went on. Thank you for the sub, the daddy. Very fun to have to say that out loud. But he had an issue. Otto, well, great to see you, pal. Yeah, it was a great race. It was a great race. Max doing well to recover because realistically, taking the engine penalty to finish in P2, fantastic result for him. And I think that Lewis is leading, but just by 2 points now, so that will help Max. But I also think that by seeing by Hamilton winning, that can kind of put him back on track, because I think before that he was having a pretty difficult time. He was having consistent mistakes here and there, so to be back kind of on top of things, back on form, is big for him, very big. Matisse, Turkey is next if it goes ahead, which I think it will. I've been told that Turkey's going ahead, and Turkey with the rain last year, summer in this year would be beautiful, but we'll see. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, Matisse, Otto, Yuri, Jalui. And yeah, I agree on the George thing, I agree. Abra, HM, Kappa, Gotham, Sebastian, Matisse, you're all legends. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you're new, subscribe. And if you're new but you haven't done this already, hit that bell, because I'll be doing live streams now every single day. I'm committed. So I'll be going over news. And of course, the main news is going to be the Alfa Romeo story. And we'll do a bunch of things like, watch-alongs, reactions, tier lists, etc. So do stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Look after yourselves. And I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.